Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Isabel and this is my library. Today I will be sharing with you everything that I read in the month of February. February was fast. I don't even know where the month went. I know February is the shortest month. I am well aware. I think I had a very ambitious TBR and I didn't get to read everything I wanted to read, as it happens a lot. So today I'm going to be sharing with you the 9 books that I read in the month of February. There were some new, fun, favorite things, and of course, there were some disappointments. I go ahead and share with you everything that I read this month, starting from what I liked least all the way to what I liked the most. So, the first thing I will be sharing with you was actually a DNF, and that is The Three Lives of Kate K by Kate Fagan. So, unfortunately, this wasn't for me. I went ahead and DNF this at about a 25% of the way in, and it's hard for me to DNF. I know my channel's still very new, so you haven't had a chance to walk along with me and my reading journeys, but DNF is always difficult for me. Generally speaking, in my life, I'm a person that when I start something, I like to finish. You can ask my husband how I feel about leaving shows unfinished, and how I always tell him, but we have to finish the show. And he says, but we're not liking it. Why should we finish it? And it's just something that this year I'm trying to be a little bit better about, because there's so many wonderful books I want to get to, and I should be better about DNFing. Once I know that a book is not going necessarily the way that I want it to go, I think I should allow myself the liberty of DNFing. So I went ahead and did that with The Three Lives of KK. I'm not sure exactly what happened with this one. I was enjoying the friendship of the two girls at the beginning. They had a very close knit friendship to the point where they almost liked each other, and they were competing against each other in a good way for various roles in their musical theater classes. And I was enjoying that. But what I found was a little bit of a turnoff for me was the way that the book was organized. So it lends itself to be a bit confusing, simply because one of the characters has like 3 names, right? Like Anne Marie Callahan, Annie, and Cass. And then one of them is like a writer, and then it's like who's who, and it was just a little confusing at the beginning. And they introduced another POV of Ryan, and then we were going back and forth within the different time periods, and I just wasn't invested enough to try to piece all of the moving parts together. And I'm not sure if it's the writing that I wasn't a huge fan of, or the narrative style. I think it's more of the narrative style that was just not for me. So yeah, for me, it's a DNF for now. Maybe I pick it up at some other time. That's what I always say to myself when I DNF something, that maybe I'll go ahead and pick it back up in another moment. Time will tell. But for now, I did DNF this one this month. So the second book on this list was a part of a vlog that I went ahead and put out. So if you want my complete thoughts on that, I'll point you to that video. But the next book on the list with a 2.5 rating is Word Hunter by Stella Sands. And this was a book that I really enjoyed the first half of. I thought it was very witty. I thought it was something different from what I've read before. But then a series of events happen in the second half of the book that were just not for me. It felt like they changed completely the tone of the book. It went from being more lighthearted to a little bit more serious, or way more serious than anticipated. In this book, we are following Maggie, and Maggie is really good with words. She has studied linguistics, and she has a fascination for diagramming sentences and playing with words. And she's a big reader. And so she has discovered the study of using linguistics for crime detection and stuff like that. So very quickly, she finds herself working as an assistant to the police department, trying to find guilty people through notes that they leave behind, using what she knows about language and linguistics, and writing and formulating sentences to discover who might be the culprit of various crimes. And that was a lot of fun. Maggie was a cool character to follow. She was very interesting, and the book was a lot of fun. But there were certain choices that were made in the second half of the book that kind of were very triggering. It was like life changing things for the characters in the book, which I wasn't very happy about. The primary mystery, which was kind of guiding the whole thing, was not really resolved, in my opinion. And that's kind of what I was invested in for the most part, not the new cases she was picking up, but the reason why she became so involved in finding criminals, which was because her best friend disappeared when she was a little girl. So I didn't really like how that was handled and certain things that happened in the second half of the book, which is why I ended up giving this one a 2.5. So if you're interested in a character or in a book that talks a lot about linguistics and language and stuff like that, I think you would enjoy it. And just kind of go into it thinking that it feels very like quirky and fun and cozy at the beginning, but halfway through it changes into something a little darker. And maybe it'll be better for you. I was not expecting that at all. So that's what I didn't really enjoy about that one. So now we're getting into our 4-star territory, which is great, right? These next ones are all going to be at least 4 stars. So next we have Brat by Gabriel Smith. So I found myself to really, really enjoy this book. Uh, I enjoyed that it was dealing with the topic of grief, and I enjoyed how that was handled. It's a weird, quirky little book. In it, we are following a character named Gabriel, and basically it has to do with his father just having died and his mother struggling to keep hold of her memories, and she's clearly losing some of her faculties in that aspect. And it's this almost feels like a fever dream, as Gabriel's trying to cope with the death of the father, going back to his childhood home, and he's constantly discerning between reality and fiction. He discovers various like texts around the house, and he starts to see certain things manifesting themselves into his real life. And if you enjoy weird books, I think this fulfills the weird category. This is one of those weird books, and it's beautifully written. I thought the language was very beautiful, so I did enjoy that. So I would definitely recommend this to you if you like a little bit of a different kind of read. Next, with 4 stars as well, I read Afterlife by Gail Foreman, and this is another book I really enjoyed. This is YA, and in this book we are following Amber, and Amber gets home one day to find her parents or her mother shocked to see her because she has died 7 years before. And she just got home from school that day, not knowing that she was dead and that she had died 7 years back. And she's trying to understand why she's back, what's happened to everyone that she loves, what's happened to her family, her boyfriend, her aunt. And it basically follows her through the next few days, trying to piece all of that together. And of course, the reader's constantly trying to figure out, why has Amber come back? Is she her normal self? How is the family coping or reacting with this fact that she's back? And I think it makes some beautiful comments about the purpose of our lives and our journeys, and why certain things happen to the people we love, and how we can move on with our lives after we've had like a particularly difficult loss. So I do like how this book went ahead and talked about those issues. It does feel very YA. I normally don't read a lot of YA. I feel like if I did read more YA or loved the YA more, I probably would have given this like a 5 star. But I think it's a very solid read. It's a very beautiful read. It's a great story. I love the speculative aspect of her coming back to life. So yeah, I definitely would recommend this to you, especially if you're a YA reader. It's a very solid book. So next, with 4 stars, we have The Strange House, Volume 1. And this is the manga, because I understand that we also have the novel version of this, but I did pick up the manga, and I also have volume 2, which I will be reading soon as a part of another project that I am currently working on, a vlog that I am doing. And in this, we are following the main character, who gets approached by one of her friends who wants to purchase a house, and he shares with her the floor plans of the house that he and his wife would like to buy, and he finds them incredibly unusual. The floor plans include a child's room that doesn't have windows or doors and is kind of in the middle of the house, and it also includes lots of hidden spaces, right? So like hidden spaces in the house, that we're not really sure what they are, if they're like secret compartments or if they are passageways. And she speaks to a friend of hers who's very into the occult, and he's also an architect, so he knows a lot about floor plans and blueprints. And she asks him for his input, and his input is very interesting, and he has some interesting conjectures as to why this strange house looks this way. And I think that's all I'll tell you about it. But I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I feel like, had it resolved a little bit more or given us some more additional information as to why the house looks this way, I think I would have given it the 5 stars. But I don't think it revealed anything at all. And I feel like after one volume, something should be revealed, right? So we should get a little bit more. So I am hoping that volume 2 does give us a bigger reveal as to what is going on in this house. But I found it very cool, very unusual, and a very fun little read, fast read. So next, also coming in at 4 stars, is Adrift in Currents Clean and Clear by Shannon McGuire. So this is a part of the Wayward Children series, and this is one of my favorite series in the world. I have a very special place in my heart for this series. As soon as they are released, I read them every year. I look forward to January release of a new book in this series. And this installment was great. I gave it 4 stars. It's not one of my favorites. I usually give these a 5 star, but this one necessarily wasn't my favorite. I think a lot of the 5 stars for these have to do with like what world we are in, because there's so many cool and different worlds. And I'll explain the premise now in case you don't know. But I think that where we go or what world we are in really impacts whether I give these a 4 or a 5. And it's still a wonderful book. It still has everything that I love in the series, which I'll tell you about now in a minute. But in this one, we are following Nadia, and Nadia is a little girl who is from Russia, and the book opens up with her birth. And from birth, her mother sees that she is without part of her arm, so she's born missing the lower part of her arm, missing her hand as well. And the mom very quickly like disappears, right? And so Nadia is sent to an orphanage where she spends the majority of her childhood. And we then are able to see how Nadia gets adopted, and then one day she finds her door. So for those of you who are not familiar with the Wayward Children series, this series is basically a series that follows children who, at one point or another in their lives, when they're little kids, stumbled upon a door. And this door led them to a special place, to their special place, a world where they belonged, and a world that was different from all the other doors that appear for all the other children and all the other worlds. And each of the worlds is very beautifully described and depicted and created. And so in book one, all of the children, once they come back from their worlds, have of course trouble adjusting to the real world. So they are in the school for these wayward children, right? Like that, they all go to the same school and they're coping with life away from their worlds. And a lot of times we'll meet the characters first, and then in later books we get their stories, and we see that here as well. And we just kind of dive into their worlds a little bit. And speaking of diving in, Nadia's world is found through a lake. She has this obsession with turtles and she loves turtles. And so her door appears in the form of like this water uh, portal, if you will. She dives into the water and then she reaches her world. And we do see some aspects of her like maturing and growing up as well. And yeah, I really did enjoy it. I loved how it handled the conversations and topics of disability. That's probably one of the things that I love most about Shannon McGuire's writing and this series in particular, how she handles very important topics, usually from the vantage point of a child. And it was just so beautiful to see how the world viewed Nadia and how she viewed being born without her limb. And just like that, all of those conversation points I thought were brilliant. I also was very interested in the conversation surrounding adoption. And yeah, I thought it was beautiful. And of course, it has that same nostalgic, beautiful child voice, which is my favorite thing of Shannon McGuire's books, that she describes children and the way children think and behave and feel and act in such a beautifully nostalgic, painful, sad way. And that had all the elements. And so it wasn't a 5 star simply because it wasn't my favorite in the series or one of my favorite worlds. It is a water world. We have a lot of like foxes and turtles and stuff like that. I tend to prefer in the series like the funner worlds or the darker worlds. Those tend to be my favorite. If you know what I'm talking about. Don't want to talk too much about the other books in case you haven't gotten to them, but I definitely recommend this series. If you have not read the first book, I think you should, because it's just wonderful. If you love portal fantasy, if you like reading about children and their experiences traveling through to other lands, magical places, nonsensical places, this is a series you should check out. So now we are moving to 5 star territory, and I had 2 5 stars this month. So one of them I think being like a favorite, right? So first let's go to a book that I did talk about in my most recent vlog, and that is Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney. I did give this 5 stars. I thought it was a great book. And again, I did vlog my reading experience with this, so for my complete thoughts, you can go ahead and watch that video. But in this, we are basically following uh, Grady, and Grady is an author, and one day he's having a conversation with his wife on the phone, and she's on her way home. He's waiting for her to arrive so that he can share with her the news of his book becoming a bestseller, and it's on the bestsellers list. And as she's talking to him on the phone, she kind of hits the brake, and then she says there's a woman lying on the ground, and he's like, "Don't get off the car. What are you doing?" And then she's like, "Okay, wait, I have to get off," and leaves him like on the call in the car. And then he hears that part, and after that day she disappears and he doesn't find her again. So right, and that's right at the beginning of the book. Then after that he does travel to this island to be able to write on this island. And the moment that he gets to the island, he sees a woman that looks like his wife. And that's basically the premise of the book. I tell you a little bit more in my vlog, so go ahead and watch that. But I thought this was a great thriller. I love the setting on an island, not being able to like get out of the island or go into the island. So that's a trope that I really enjoy. I also liked how the end was very twisty. It had a lot of twists. So that was a lot of fun for me. And although over the top, maybe a little bit, and the twist being a little bit far fetched, I still enjoyed it. I liked being surprised, and this book actually made me like shocked and surprised, and made me flip back and say, "Hey, what was this? What happened here again?" Just because it was so like it caught me off guard. So if you like thrillers, if you like Alice Feeney, I think this is one of her better ones. I think it's a really, really good version of what it is. And yeah, I recommend this one. And now for my favorite book of February, which is a book that's been on my TBR for so long. And I finally picked it up. And it was such a quick read. And I can't believe it had been so long that I'd had it on my TBR and I had not read it. And it's definitely a 5 star, and I can't recommend it enough. And that is The Test by Sylvain Nouvelle. Wow, this was awesome. This was awesome. So, first, it's a novella, so it's incredibly short. It is 105 pages long. And this feels like a Black Mirror episode. And I know I've said this before. I know you guys have heard me say that I love Black Mirror. I love anything that resembles that vibe of things that are sci-fi, and they mix technology with morals and values, and they make you question what's right and what is wrong. This has all of that, and it's so good. It's so good. It's so good, guys. So I'm not going to tell you much. I'm not, because it's very short. And right off the bat, there's like plot twists. So it's not one of those books that you have to read, and then you get to like a plot twist way into the book. There's like a plot twist immediately, and you're like, what is going on here? And so I'm not going to tell you a lot of things. I'm just going to tell you that we are following a deer, and a deer is trying to take his British citizenship test. So the book opens up with him sitting down. His family is outside waiting for him, his wife and his 2 kids, and he's sitting down taking the test. And he is trying to become a citizen, and he's very excited and nervous because this means a lot to him to be able to get his citizenship. That is all I'm going to tell you. That's all I'm going to say, because it's wonderful. It's such a fast read. If you like sci-fi-ish things, if you like Black Mirror, if you like things that make you think of the morality or what's right or what's wrong, if you like anything that has to do with like the human psyche and studying why humans do certain things and why their actions matter, or why we behave the way we behave. If any of those things seem interesting to you, I highly recommend that you read The Test. It's such a fast book. I did read like a portion of it in audio, and the audio book is great as well, so I recommend that as well. And yeah, I can't sing enough praises about this book. It's just it's everything. You definitely should read it if you like any of those things that I just mentioned. And there you have it, guys. Those are the 9 books that I was able to read in February. I feel that January and February have both been months that I haven't really read a lot. I know you're probably thinking 9 books or 10 books, that's a lot. Or not really, because this is, Booktube, and people read 20 and 30 books. But I normally read a little bit more than 8, 9, 10 books. I normally try to read like, 12, 13 books each month. But yeah, I'm still happy with the quality of what I read this month. I know there were a lot of things left over on my TBR that I did not get to read. I will add those to my March TBR and kind of put them there unofficially. By this time, you should have already seen my March TBR. And you should know that I'm super excited for all the great books I'm going to be reading in March. And I have a vlog coming out soon that does include one of the books that I showed you here. And yeah, have some cool ideas for things to come. But I'm very excited about all the books that I read in February. I hope you were excited about some of them as well. Have you read any of these? Let me know if you loved any of them, if you have them on your TBR, if you maybe you want to read them for March, if maybe you're going to pick up the test based on this recommendation. Just let me know in the box below. And once again, thank you so much for watching. Consider liking or subscribing so I can continue bringing you more content like this one. And for now, that's all for me. Look forward to talking to you soon. Have a good one, guys. Bye.